I'd like to call the Budget and Public Employees hearing to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Boyd, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Velazquez,
Present.
Alderwoman Sunier,
Present.
Alderman Aldridge,
Present.
Chair Spencer,
Present.
Vice Chair Boyd, Alderman Oldenburg. We have 4 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have just one item of business today, and that is our city budget. This morning, our first hearing will be the Collector of Revenue's office. Mr. Collector, you're welcome to join us. If you don't mind, introduce yourself, any staff members you have for those at home, and we'll start going through your budget. I think we have some printouts. Is that right? Were these printouts from you? Okay, I just want to make sure. Do we have them electronically for those online? Okay, thank you. Great, thank you. All right, Mr. Collector. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee.
Make sure your mic's on.
My name is Greg Daly.
I think your mic might not be on, Collector.
It's just a little click button right there.
Should turn
There you
green.
go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Greg Daly. I am the Collector of Revenue for the City of St. Louis. With me this morning is Mr. Mark Stoff. He is the Chief of Staff for the Collector of Revenue's office. If I could, I would just like to go over a few things with regards to the Collector of Revenue's office, and certainly be open to questions as they may come up.
Mr. Collector, just real quickly, if you don't mind, just going over real quickly what your office does, just, kind of overview the functions and the things that you oversee.
Okay. The Collector of Revenue is a fee-based county office. Its fiscal year begins on the first Monday in March, and that's prescribed by state statute. We're responsible for collecting real estate taxes, personal property taxes, earnings tax, payroll expense taxes, water fees, and refuge fees. Collections made by the Collector of Revenue are distributed throughout the city to support various public services, facilities, and agencies and funds. The earnings tax is the largest funding source for general revenue, comprised of 1/3 of total dollars. During fiscal year ending March 3rd, 2024, total collections were $800 million, a little bit more than $800 million. Real estate and personal property, $491 million. Earning and payroll expenses, $292 million. Water, $52 million. Trash, $16 million. City disbursements breakdown: real estate, personal property, $585 million to designated agencies such as public schools, Zoo Museum District, MSD, Sheltered Workshop District, and 12 others, TIFs and Central Business Districts. Earnings and payroll expenses, $281 million to general revenue. Water, $50 million to the Water Division. Trash, $15 million to the Refuse Division. As directed by state and local offices, the Collector of Revenue is funded by commissions on fees and taxes the office collects, which range between 1.5% and 4%. In June, any excess commissions after operating expenses are distributed to the appropriate agencies associated with the tax or fees from which commissions were derived. Excess commissions from this year will be about $13.2 million. And since I have become the Collector of Revenue back in 2008, our distributions have exceeded $170 million back to the city. The Collector of Revenue currently has 85 full-time employees and part-time employees. We're located on 3 floors of City Hall. We're about 7 employees down at this time. Much like all city departments, salaries and benefits make up the largest expense for the collector of revenue at right around 70% of our total expenses. All employees in the collector of revenue's office make at least $18 an hour and receive paid parking provided by the office, which is something we just brought into fruition last year. We pay an assessment to the comptroller's office for the space that we occupy, the support we receive from the ITS, and other associated costs. This year's assessment is $645,000. We assist other departments, the assessor, the license collector's office, the health department, Operation Brightside, the election board, by offering personnel and equipment for large mailings that they need to inform our city residents. Collector of Revenue has received ARPA funds in conjunction with working with the mayor's office to allocate on behalf of what we call the RETAF, the Real Estate Tax Assistance Fund, for eligible and improved homeowners which are behind in their local taxes and in danger of having their homes sold. RETAF funds are not commingled with any other funds. If any interest earned stays with those funds. Again, the Real Estate Tax Assistance Fund is in a partnership with includes Park Central Development, Prosperity Connection, Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, and the Collector of Revenue for the City of St. Louis is already, with conjunction with the RETAF funds, have been able to save 102 owner-occupied homes from tax sales. That has impacted about 199 residents from 42 neighborhoods throughout the city. The Collector of Revenue is currently collaborating with the Water Department and the current administration to develop a comparable program to assist our neighbors in similar circumstances with their water bills. Collector of Revenue is an active participant in the development of the Senior Citizen Property Tax Freeze Credit and appreciated the opportunity to have a seat at the table along with the Assessor's Office and representatives from both the administration and the Board of Aldermen. That pretty much sums what we do in the Collector's Office. And again, with me this morning is Mark Stoff, who is our Chief of Staff, and will be more than glad to answer any questions the committee may have. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Collector. Did you want to go through your budget I have here, or should we take questions on the function of the office before? Do any members of the committee have questions on the function of the office before we kind of go through the budget? Okay, doesn't look like we do. So, Mr. Collector, you're welcome to introduce your budget to us. Thank you.
Why don't you come up?
Get my notes together. All right, so excuse me, Mark Stoff, Chief of Staff. You should have in front of you the fiscal year 23-24 budget, what the actual expenses were, and now the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. Just a couple of notes on that. The estimate for fiscal year 24 was $12,742,422, and the actual expenses totaled $12,627,000. So there was a $115,049 that we were under budget. Those realized savings will be redirected to the excess commissions, and they'll be distributed accordingly. This upcoming year, we further reduced the budget to reflect the decreased expense associated with the new earnings tax system that should be online for calendar year 2025. The earnings tax system, as well as a new system for property tax, were necessitated by the imminent decommissioning of the mainframe. So I don't know if you know that The city had operated on a mainframe for about 60 years. There were no significant improvements to that system, nor was there anybody coming up that was familiar with the system or the programming of the system. So that's going the way of the dodo. So we kind of went out on our own to find a couple of systems. We've contracted with a couple of different people. We're moving forward with that. We do anticipate that licensing and maintenance agreements for both of those systems will increase in the following fiscal year once both of those systems are fully operational. But we should also see a significant reduction in our assessment from the comptroller because we'll be off of that. If you look, roughly 70% of the budget is employee and benefit related expenses, as Bailey alluded to. We're budgeting for about a 4% increase in salaries and related benefits. As you know, hiring and retaining employees continues to be a challenge. So we've struggled with that as much as anybody. So you can see that our regular salary expenses fell a little bit while our per performance payments went up. And the reason for that is we have very good and loyal people who have retired from our office but have agreed to come back in times of need and assist us through some situations when we've lost employees, critical or otherwise. And that's been a benefit for us to be able to pull upon their institutional knowledge and bring them back on board. But obviously that comes with an expense. Printing and postage, you'll see that went up a little bit. And that's going to continue to rise. That's the nature of the beast. But what we're hoping is with the new systems coming online, as we get more into e-filing and e-billing and creating taxpayer portals for facilitating online communication, that will decrease in the years to follow. We also expect, if you look down, forget what line it is, under non-capital equipment office remodeling, we see a large increase in there. One of that is it's expected to be that the IRS will have additional requirements for us when the new earnings tax system comes online that will necessitate some infrastructure changes as well as just physical barriers to protect the data on the fourth floor.
Thank you. Okay, so do you have any, one of the things we, as you know, when we go through our budgets here for city departments, we're always looking for ways to help and to understand if there are any shortcomings. It doesn't have anything in the budget that has not been funded. And I believe that's a function of kind of how the budget is set by your office.
Correct.
So I don't have the staffing numbers here. Can you just tell us, I know, one of the unusual things about having county offices that we have a kind of a personnel department that handles hiring for the city employees, and each of the county offices has their own sort of hiring practices, HR department, et cetera. Sure. But can you tell us just a little bit about your staffing levels and kind of how staffed you are at this time?
Yeah, we're about 7 employees down in various departments. It's not a significant issue at the moment, but we are realizing it is very difficult to get people even in the door to interview. We have set up interviews, we've made the necessary calls, and the day comes and the employee doesn't show up. The other thing we're seeing is retention of the employees. We'll get an employee in, we train them for 6 months, and then they find another opportunity and they move on. And if you look at resumes nowadays, you will see that as a developing pattern, which is job hopping. And certainly we don't begrudge anybody for moving on and finding a better opportunity. What we try to do is engage with all of our employees to see what kind of things can we do to keep them in the office. And one of the first things we did was pay to park. Nobody wanted to pay to park, and I get that. You show up for work, I got to pay you just so I can come in and do my job and then go home. And so we were able to offer that, and that's been a tremendous advantage for our employees. And it's good for us to be able to go out there and sell that to somebody coming in the door. Hey, we're going to pay for your parking. You don't have to worry about that. You come right in. Some of the other things we've done, it's the same thing. It's morale stuff. It's dress down days. We can't offer work from home. We can't offer a lot of these things at some of these other places, but we can offer an atmosphere and an environment where you do want to come in every day. As Mr. Daly likes to say, we spend more time with people at work than we do with our own families. That's just the nature of of the business that we're in. So if you can't enjoy that time, you're going to start to dread it, and then you're going to start to look for somewhere else to go. So what we do is, through various places, we try to recruit. We'll show up for job fairs. We'll go through Indeed. We go through Monster. We do a lot of word of mouth. We'll put out to our own employees, hey, if you know somebody. But yeah, it's a challenge just getting people in the door and then keeping them once they're here.
Okay, that's very helpful. I appreciate that. As I just want to note for the committee and folks at home, just for clear understanding, we don't actually approve your budget.
Correct.
But we appreciate you coming before us and sharing it with us and letting us ask questions. So I'll turn it over to the committee for questions in order of seniority and attendance. We have Alderwoman Velasquez, I believe, first. Alderwoman?
Hey, yes. Thank you. Good morning, Collector of Revenue Daily, and I didn't quite catch your Chief of Staff's name, but thank you for being here. I just have a couple quick questions, sort of more tangential than anything else. Well, this one is not. Can you just talk about, I guess, on the line item, the advertising line item for the sheriff's office? Can you just talk about that line item a little bit more?
Yeah, so in the past, we would be out of pocket for all of those expenses. That has now been passed on to the person that is being billed at this stage of the game. So there really is an expense item for us. It stays on there in case that were ever to change. We also used to advertise in a bunch of different periodicals. I think we're down to one at significantly lower cost. Might be the Lake Tribune. I can't remember. I can find out that information for you. Daily Record.
Okay.
That's where we post that. But that's where it originally came from. For a long time, we were out of pocket on all those expenses. That's since changed.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's helpful. Not the Daily Record as in Mr. Daily. That was
Correct.
So bear with me on my puns. Just secondly, just really curious. I know that I've gotten a lot of calls about RETAF. I know that's helped. That's tremendous. That's been a program that's helped the city tremendously, and I get a lot of questions about it. I know you're developing this program with the water department, but could you just, do you have any data or insights you could share on maybe the amount or level of people that this program could serve?
So we're still in talks. I think the amount appropriated and the water division be better, but I think it was in one of these meetings, it was mentioned either $900,000 or $1 million was available. And the early talks were about having available up to $500 in funds. I think that conversation has shifted a little bit to talk about need and where people are at. To my understanding, the city has not begun shutting off water for residences yet. So I think what they want to do is put this program in conjunction with that. I know they've started shutting off commercial water if you haven't paid your bills. But, that stopped in the pandemic, and they're starting it back up. So when initial estimates were we could help up to 1,800 properties, and I think we were going to use the same kind of parameters that were used. You had to be an owner-occupied home. You had to live there. That had to be your primary residence. But those talks are still ongoing.
Great. Well, I just want to echo the chairwoman and just appreciate you both for being here, and also just in the sense of, as being a newbie to the budget process and learning a ton of things every day, it's helpful to me, and also just knowing that you don't have to do this, but you've chosen to do this and prepared for this presentation in advance. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And with that, I have no questions.
Alderwoman Saunier.
I never know which one to look at.
I know she's online. She dropped. Alderman Eldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Collector, for being here, and Chief of Staff, and the rest of your team that was here. Not much questions, just for the public, like the chairwoman said. We really don't have, you kind of being a city-county office, don't have the ability to decrease or do anything with your budget, but appreciate your office for still contributing to kind of the city general revenue from the percentage you do. I just want to, I think I said it last budget hearing, say it again, what I really appreciate about your office and some other city county office like Recorder of Deeds is really making it more easier for taxpayers to try to access and be able to get documentation where they don't always have to come down to City Hall. It's very archaic coming from Jeff City to City Hall. City Hall is very archaic and trying to get it up to the 21st century, but I think your office has done a really good job with being able to pay bills online. Our city website is a little dinosaur, so you guys went beyond and got your own kind of website to make it more transparent and accessible for residents. So I appreciate that. And even paying workers, at $18, and I know some people get paid more than that, but $18, and especially when you talk about parking, not having to, make $18, but then maybe pay for your own parking and walk. So I hope other offices are taking note on the type of way that you guys are supporting the staff, which I think keep workers in the city of St. Louis and make people in the city of St. Louis be happy to pay their check out to Gregory FX Daily when they can do it online and not have to come downtown. So thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for the committee today. I just had a couple quick questions. I mean, first of all, I want to say, Ryan reminded me that the detail in this presentation is so much more than last year. You heard our request for that. Thank you for doing that. We really do appreciate you accommodating the kind of more in-depth process that this committee is undergoing as far as our budget's concerned. I'm just curious about the remodeling. It's a big increase. Of course, our whole entire city hall, I think, could use a facelift, but just curious on that piece. What can residents expect from your new office?
Well, it'll be dictated by what the IRS tells us we have to do. So one of the things, in order to protect the data, you have to have everything built from the floor all the way to the slab of the ceiling. So you have to go past drop ceilings. You also have to have, we're going to end up having coded doors to be able to access both coming into the building on the fourth floor and then also into the private areas. So we've got to redo all of that. And then there's some infrastructure changes as far as the new system will operate from the cloud. And so based on that, we have to have quite a bit more cybersecurity to make sure we're protecting that data. So right now we've estimated at $125,000, but we're still a ways off from even putting that into play.
Okay, your budget here says 194. I imagine that.
That's so we have our regular stuff that's in there. The 125 is specifically for that.
Something that's not. I mean, we see legal fund of 142. Is that obviously the collector's office has been in the news significantly lately because of the lawsuits related to our earnings tax. Is the legal fees associated with that reflected in the budget?
Yeah, so everything is included in there, everything that we do that has to do with the law department. We have outside counsel for the most part handle those cases. So it's not just specifically to the earnings tax, it's anything that comes our way.
Okay, is that part of this professional services line and the legal?
Yeah, that's all combined.
The city councilor fund, is that funding the city's legal department?
Yeah, it's a pay-in if we have to pay them for anything.
Do you pay for the office space?
We do. So that's what we pay the assessment to the comptroller's office for. That's $645,298. So we're essentially renters in the building. We lease space, if you will.
That's what I thought. I don't see that on the. You said that's Mark. That's where.
That's going to be line 122, cost allocations, comptroller office.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't see that as
Yep.
that. Okay. Well, this is really helpful. I mean, I think certainly, the fact that our collector's office is a separate county office is fairly unusual as a municipal governmental organization. And so, again, we thank you for being here. It looks like my colleague from the 6th has a question. Alderwoman Velasquez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I always have follow-up questions for you. Just a quick question on the city councilor's line item. Is that essentially billable hours, or is that like essentially a retainer? I know that, you're paying for services, but just curious.
Yeah, more or less. That's a holdover from earlier years when we used to invest in those quite a bit more. Most of our things are handled now through outside counsel, but it would be billable based on whatever they do for us.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. We have no jurisdiction over your budget, but again, we appreciate you spending time with us here this morning. And with that, seeing no additional questions for the collector, we can adjourn this portion of the meeting. Thank you so much for being here today.
Madam Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity. Hopefully, we were able to inform the committee on what we do down on the first floor and the fourth floor and in the basement. So please don't hesitate. If there are any further questions, contact us and we'll be more than glad to help out in any way.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our next department would be the license collector's office. Madam Clerk, is the license collector here?
Not as of yet.
Would someone mind, Madam Clerk, I hate to ask, but could someone contact the license collector's office and ask if they're joining us today? And with that, I'll take a 10-minute recess to wait for the license collector. Okay, I'd like to call the Budget and Public Employees Committee hearing back to order. Our second order of business for the day is the License Collector's Office. I want to acknowledge that while our calendar here says 10 o'clock, there may have been some miscommunication. I want to thank the license collector for accommodating and coming down a little bit early here this morning. Sometimes, with all of these hearings, there could be a little hiccup here and there, so our apologies on that front. Madam License Collector, if you may approach the dais, what we're asking department heads to do, as usual, is just to give an introduction of yourself, any staff who is with you, describe briefly the kind of things that your office oversees, and then we'll go through your budget and ask questions.
All right. I actually have a opening statement that we had prepared, and so I can just go ahead and read that if you need me to.
Excellent. Madam License Collector, if you don't mind introducing yourself as well as your staff, we will appreciate it.
I'm Mavis Thompson, license collector for the City of St. Louis, and I have with me today my Chief of Staff, Legal Counsel Lee Goodman, and also our Finance Manager, Barbara Peebles.
Good morning.
And we thank you for allowing us to do this opening statement. The License Collector Office was created under the statutory authority of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri, Chapter 82, Section 340. To be exact, my statutory duties span the breadth of the entire city of St. Louis. We have exclusive authority to issue all licenses, receipts for business license taxes, with the exception of two types. That is the dram shop, which is the liquor license, and boat and wharf license. Number two, we also have the authority to revoke licenses under stated circumstances, such as the owners are convicted of violations of the law and or ordinance related to said licenses. Additionally, the City of St. Louis via ordinances may impose license taxes and penalties upon the businesses codified in Article 22, Section 1 of the City Charter. There is a plethora of such businesses, ranging from antique dealers to wine manufacturers. In summary, the License Collector's Office is a fee-based, revenue-generating entity, which means that we do not receive any revenue from the City of St. Louis. Instead, in fact, we issue revenue to the City of St. Louis. In fact, we distributed approximately $61 to $65 million annually to the city's general revenue fund and other city and state agencies, such as the public school libraries, public schools themselves, state fund for the blind, and the like. Pursuant to the Missouri state statutes, a percentage of these fees collected are retained to operate our offices. And so that is our presentation. One last thing is during the fiscal year of June 22 through May 23, We collected $65 million. We distributed $51 million to the city's general revenue fund. We distributed $12 million to other agencies, and we retained $2.5 million, and out of that, over 90% of it went to our personnel salaries. Thank you, Madam Chair and officers, for allowing me to make this presentation. We also have a folder for you, and we can go over any of those budget numbers that you would wish.
Thank you, Madam License Collector. It would be helpful if you want to kind of go through your budget here.
All right.
kinda
And
give
so again, our fiscal year runs from June to May to June. And so a little different, and so that's why some of the figures may be a little fluctuated sometimes, because that's our fiscal year. We're not on a calendar year
Can you help us understand why that might be?
because of the ordinances. We didn't decide what the fiscal year was.
Okay.
Ready now?
Yes, we're ready. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And so on that first category, you have the different types of revenue that we bring in. We bring in municipal tax revenue, which is basically mostly all of the small businesses that don't do manufacturing or are not a hotel or a motel or Airbnb. So that's our general license, is the municipal tax revenue. The next category is manufacturing tax revenue, such as Anheuser and those other businesses that actually manufacture something per, again, a statutory definition. Hotel tax revenue, also convention and tourism tax, and Airbnb. So those are our categories of revenue. And so last year, our fiscal year, we proposed general revenue for those categories, and you will see those listed. Then out of our actual partial, and we say partial because we're just now at the end of our fiscal year and we don't have that 1 month added on. But out of the partial and actuals for 2023, 24, those are the revenues that we actually did collect. And then currently proposed for next fiscal year, you'll see those amounts. Any questions in that category, Madam Chair?
Madam License Collector, we'll just kind of go through the budget and then we'll kind of go through the committee with questions at the
All
end.
right, gotcha. Okay, and so then the next is distributed to the city treasurer. And so out of that, what we proposed to give was about 43 million due to still trying to get the recovery from COVID. And then the partial and the actual, we're already up to 39 point some million. And our proposed for next year would be 43 million. And then distributed to other agencies. Like we said, so many of the different agencies, we proposed that we would distribute about 26 million. We actually distributed to this date 24 million, and the current proposed for next year is 26 million. Then out of the License Collector's Office Commission, we proposed that out of those categories that we would collect, that we would keep commission totaling about $816,000. And we actually, to date, we have already got up to $1,700,000 and some dollars. And we propose next year that out of the commission, we would be able to keep $1,896,000, so to speak. And so that's our budget. And if you want me to go through the different categories of how we spend that in our office now, I'll do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And that's on the second page.
Okay, thank you. That would be helpful.
All right. And so for personnel services, like I said, we're right up to about 92 to 94% of our total budget, which was 1.8 million last year. We proposed that that would be 1.7 or so million this year, but the majority, vast majority of the money that we bring in and are able to keep due to commission goes to salaries. The second category will be supplies, paper supplies, first aid, other supplies like that. We're proposing anywhere from $18,000, which is about 1% of our budget. Equipment means repairs to office equipment, such as our computers and things like that, and office rental equipment as well. And so we're proposing for our next fiscal year that we would spend about $37,000 on equipment. Contract services, we contract for our postage, we also contract for our copiers, some additional, if we needed, some deep cleaning type things, files, record storage, online processing. We have 2 of those that we pay for, printing, copying, and payment to the city for our leased space. And so we're saying that that's going to be about $71,000 or 3.75% of our budget. Auto, gas, insurance, storage, repairs, vehicle purchases, and we have five in our fleet. Yeah, 5 or 6 in our fleet, and so that's about $18,000, 1% of our budget. And last, we do tuition reimbursement, and so we have education, training, forums, and our tuition reimbursement, and we're saying that that's going to be about $4,741, which is 0.25% of our budget.
Okay, thank you, Madam License Collector. I think if you don't mind, just overview of the personnel portion of your budget making up the majority of it. Just roughly how, if you could just describe how many employees you have, how many vacancies, et cetera, just so we get an idea of the size.
Well, we don't go by vacancies. We just work with how many that we have. And right now we have 32. Well, that's what we had when we started for this proposed, but right now on board. Okay, right now on board 29.
29?
Yes.
Do you have job openings at the moment?
Like I said, Madam Chair, we work with what we have. We could use more employees, but again, we have to look at our budget because of our starting salary is so high. And so I wouldn't say that we have openings, but we could use people in our finance department, and that's primarily what we're looking for right now.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused. So you do have job openings? And it's not, the way we do hiring for these county offices is a little bit confusing, I think, for many people, because we have a personnel department which handles hiring for the city, but our license collector's office is a separate county office.
That's correct.
And so you have your own hiring practices and HR department, for example.
That's correct.
And so with your 29 employees with these openings, do you have job openings posted somewhere?
And like I said, madam, no ma'am, we do not have any job postings posted right at this second. But when we do have job openings, yes, they're posted. St. Louis Post-Dispatch, St. Louis American, and just word of mouth.
Okay. I'll turn it over to the committee for questions on the license collector's office. Order of seniority and attendance, Alderwoman Velazquez.
Great, thank you, License Collector Thompson, for being here. I actually cannot seem to find a copy of the presentation, so it's hard for me to ask specific questions at this time. I guess one just general, general question I do have for you though is, what are the types of permits that are the highest source of, I mean, I don't know if it's in that budget document, but the highest source of revenue in the city, or maybe the top 2 or 3?
Manufacturing would probably be our highest, and then, but actually when we look at the general ones, and those are called our municipal taxes, because there are so many more businesses, but the manufacturers pay more. So right around municipal or manufacturing.
Got it. So the manufacturers pay more, even though it might be less licenses.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I really have for now. I might have questions just later once I get a look at the line item, but thank you again for being here. We appreciate it.
No problem, madam. Is there a way to share the documents with her?
We are working on that.
All right, thank you.
We're working on that. Alderwoman Saulnier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Madam License Collector.
Always nice to see you.
How are you?
Good. One, I feel like actually as a result of Alderwoman Velazquez and some of the work that she's leading with the Special Red Tape Committee, I've been learning so much more about your office and how pivotal it is to many of the operations in our city. I also learned a little bit with the commercial regulation for Droneville too.
Right.
So I think a lot of this makes sense. I guess the only thing that I would like to know more about, because it's something that I'm actually I think it could be a good idea for more departments to have. Could you talk about your education and training and forms and tuition reimbursement, what that extends to? Like, is it certain courses, or just how does that work?
Well, the thing is, it is certain courses, and those are, related to whatever type of business that they're doing. But because we did not have that many folks that were going into businesses and things like that, business administration, we had some folks that were doing nursing or whatever, and so we extended it to them as well.
That's excellent. Do you have an idea? Because this is it's so small, but is that just because it's just not many people take advantage of the
Exactly,
benefit?
and we don't have that many people that are going to school during that time. We haven't had one within the last 2 or 3 years, actually. We did have one employee that graduated, and she stayed with us.
Well, congratulations to her. And do you kind of, when you're trying to seek how much funding you're going to put in your budget for that, do you kind of just ask around your office what employees are interested? Like how, I guess before you were used to running it, how did you get an idea of how much funding you should allocate or ask for during your process? How did you do that?
Exactly like you said, who's planning on going to school, and did you, we have the tuition reimbursement, and we can help you with that if you're planning on doing it. The same way that we do with any other thing, our computers and stuff, okay, somebody's computer's been acting up a lot, they need or do you need a new keyboard, or, different things like that. And so we do surveys around the office to the employees.
And would you say that your office is not, a general question, that your office is not dealing with a struggle with vacancy, or how would you?
Right now, like I said, we're not. The thing is that we're stable right now in our finance department, and we know that we've had some pickup now that is during our busy season, renewal season. And so what we do is sort of go back to some of our retirees that can come and help us out. And we have one person right now that came back to help. Two people that came back to help as retirees that have worked there, because it takes too much time to train, new people right now during this particular renewal season. And so we brought those 2 retirees back, and they just got right back in and doing what they're doing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Madam License Collector.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alderman Aldrich.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Thank you, License Collector, for being here, and all your staff that is here. I guess I'm maybe a little biased because I used to work in that office, so I know the great ship that you run. I really don't have any questions. Also, with it being a city-county office, you work on kind of a different schedule from the regular budget and the input. The input's important, but we as the budget committee, we don't have too much control over. But I do want to highlight some of the stuff that the office is doing. It is, as I think this board is working hard, and Daniela Velasquez, Alderwoman Velasquez, is over red tape trying to figure out, how do we make city government not so antiquated. And what I do appreciate about you is you working with alders, as long as they come to you first, because
No, I wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know, yeah. So being able to come to you so that you could be aware of what's going on. I know we're working on some things, and you just a great partner to work with. And this is something that affects the office. And if people don't know about the License Collect office, is very intricate. It's a lot of different things, a lot of different licensees, a lot of different processes. Like you say, manufacturer, they have to have certain requirements. General business license have to have certain requirements. Food trucks have to have certain requirements, and all these different things. So just appreciate your willingness to work with the board as we're trying to help small businesses not make the process so hard, but with also uplifting small businesses. I know you do an event in a rotunda on a regular basis where you highlight and uplift a lot of small businesses and venues. A lot of people who may not have, brick and mortar, may have like a home business license where they could be able to do work in their home or go to different events to be able to vend. But it gives another opportunity at the board for us to be exposed to a lot of these great businesses that you do, as well as I know that you used to do a lot of those education, like you said, probably have fell off, but where your office used to go in the community and, do events at Forest Park or do events in community centers to try to get people more involved and not just a license process office of how you can get your license, but also the resources that the license collector office does. So no questions, just more of a praise for all the hard work that you and your staff do, especially the everyday people that are sitting at that desk on them old mainframes, still doing the coding. I was one of those of, this business and that, and, just look forward to continuing to work with you on legislation to streamline the process for city residents and business owners.
Thank you so very much, Alderman. And the thing is that we're also now working with the city and CityWorks, with our city IT department and CityWorks as well, because we're finally getting off of the mainframe and going through a whole new system. So we're really excited about that and really busy getting data together to support that effort.
Can you talk a little bit about that CityWorks? Because people watch the budget, or they, people back home. Can you talk about what that may do to improve the process for people when they come in to get they license, and what that may be able to do for the workers to make sure that things are more accurate? And the old mainframes probably got a lot of different issues compared to the new mainframe. How that's going to help the office in the city of St. Louis?
Well, right now we're actually interviewing 2 companies for that merger into it, and so we can just give you just the kind of outline of it. But with working with them, what we're hearing that there's going to be like one portal. So one portal for the city. So you go through one portal and then you branch off like different branches. Okay, I want license collector, I want collector of revenue, I want building division, but it's all just one portal with the different branches. And so we're excited about that.
Gotcha. And then for the business license process, for them to get their license, I know they got to go through, maybe start the business license and go make sure their taxes are paid. Can they pay, and it's been a while since I've been in office, I can't remember, but can they pay for their business license either new or existing online, and then maybe do they taxes online, so to streamline the process where they don't have to do the up and down thing? Or are the business license able to be paid online yet?
Yes, great question. I remember that I was at a meeting of the community, and they asked if we could pay online and start your business online. I had been on the job for just a few months and had misinformation at that time and said, yes, you could. You could actually renew online, but you couldn't start online. But now you can do all of that online with certain businesses. And so that's what we do now at the license collector's office.
Gotcha. Thank you, license collector.
Welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think that does it for the committee. I have a
One
couple
more question, Daniela.
questions myself. I'll turn back to the Alderwoman from the 6th. Alderwoman, did you have a follow-up question for the collector?
I do, and I appreciate it. I got the document in hand. Thank you, Chairwoman. Just a couple other quick questions, License Collector Thompson, since I finally have the budget projections. Just 2 questions that are sort of related. Obviously we passed a short-term rental bill here at the board last session. I know that the city has an agreement with Airbnb, but can you just talk a little bit about, I know that the partial and actuals look a little bit lower than what we budgeted for and what we're proposing for fiscal year, but are we on track? Are we lower? Is there any, interaction because of this new bill that you're going to see in the projections for that amount?
And I don't think that we're under, let me look back here for the projections previously proposed. And
oh yeah, I guess the actuals are 65. Oh yeah, that's what I'm sorry.
Right, what we're on track for now. It's hard to tell because now not only do you have, Airbnb was actually the main one, but you have so many other types that you can do that rather than hotels. And it's just hard to try to keep up with all of the online businesses that are going on, let alone the people that are just renting out rooms themselves. And so that's why we're working with the short-term rental committee, automatic committee, to try to get some of those questions resolved.
Okay, well, obviously, if we can be of support, I know it's been a big deal all over the city. So just was curious about that. Is there anything else just in the projections that you see? I mean, I know that at least I've read that like restaurant taxes are up. That like the tourism piece, I feel like is despite the doom and gloom in the news, that we've actually been doing well on that. So can you just talk and just a little bit about projections? Are we on track?
We seem to be on track, Madam Alderwoman. The thing is that remember, we're not legislators. And so the law is what the law is, and we follow the law. So that's what we were talking about, even with the red tape committee. We don't set any of those ordinances or things like that. We don't have any internal procedures that the people have to go from office to office to office. And so that's why we're excited about trying to have this one portal where, we can look into just a look only. We're not trying to, step on anybody's toes or take away their statutory authority, but just a look so that we don't have the people running all around the building. But also the Business Assistance Center has helped us out greatly, and they do well with very new businesses that are coming in, and so they can help tell them where to go and walk around and do that instead of just coming straight to the license collector's office, and we have to tell them that same thing. So we're excited to work with them as well.
Great. Well, we're excited for the online portal. I know the people are excited for the online portal. I know that's not totally germane exactly to this conversation, but we are. I think everybody is looking forward to that. So with that, Madam Chair, I yield, or I don't yield. I don't have any more questions.
Thank you. Thank you. No, Madam License Collector, we're excited to hear you getting off the mainframe. I understand that you might be the last holdout on the mainframe, so I think it'll be.
Well, I didn't think we were a holdout. They just got to us last. Yeah, we weren't the holdout.
Okay, well, I think it's going to be a good move for the city to be able to get rid of that. I know it's an expense for the city, and certainly is a very archaic structure that needs to go. I have a couple of questions. One of the, in your presentation, you described contributing funds to the city, but I think, it's my understanding really that the license collector's office is really sort of collecting licenses on behalf of the city. So, I think there's a more symbiotic or more collaborative relationship. I'm hoping, in sort of the language there, just because, the license fees are, as you pointed out, directed by the city of St. Louis really on behalf of the city. One of the things we were really discussing yesterday in great detail in the Red Tape Committee was some licenses required for food truck vendors, and sort of the requirement that each employee of a food truck have a badge and be licensed in a particular employee manner. This was a requirement by the license collector's office, and it kind of reminded me.
No, ma'am. All those rules and regulations were set up either by automatic committee, streets department, parks department, not the license collector's office. I've been fighting for years that we shouldn't have certain vending districts and all of that, and we should already be able to go across the city and do whatever. So no, ma'am, it wasn't set up by the license collector's office.
Okay, that's very helpful to hear. If you have those issues, this is the first I've learned of them. So certainly I think maybe sharing your concerns or your perspective as a license collector with the legislating body would be really helpful. In particular,
We've done that with the ones that we're meeting with. We're meeting with short-term rentals. We've already met with Red Tape Committee. And so all of those things have been brought forward in our meetings that we're talking about. Because again, we're not legislature. We follow the law that's already written either by the Board of Aldermen, the state statutes, the building commissioner, the Parks Commission, or the Streets Commission, especially when it comes to food trucks. And if you will recall, the reason why I started a food truck festival was because of all of the red tape that was associated in trying to just get their business out there using a food truck. And so now we have a food truck event every single year, but they still have to go through those things. Fire inspections, not only for the state, they also have to go through a local one, whether they're using a truck or a standalone, things like that. And so I'm excited to get rid of some of those archaic, like you said, rules and regulations so that we can be a world-class city. There's no other big city like us that you can go and then you only have vending in one place. All of the rest of them, you go from vendor to vendor, from vendor to vendor, buying things, and we're stifling our small business owners by not having that.
If you don't mind, you probably know this, but I'm on the Red Tape Committee. This is the first I've heard of your concerns. I would love, as a member of the committee, to hear more about them. If you could share them with the committee as a whole, I know I would be very grateful for that. These are issues. One of the questions the question I have, let me just wrap this up, would be, and you and I have talked about this in the past, license fees by business license type. So for example, we have a graduated small business license for businesses that are under, I think it's 5 people. You'll have to forgive me, I don't remember the details. But I think it would be really helpful to understand the volume and the revenue driven from the different business license types. As we try to understand some of this red tape, one of the things I hear a lot from very small entrepreneurs, 1 or 2 people that are really trying to get going, is the license fees can be onerous. And if it, just kind of, as we consider maybe reducing fees or eliminating them for those really small business owners, it would be helpful to kind of understand what revenue that's driven and kind of what percentage of the license fee system that makes. I know it's been hard to kind of pull those data figures together because of the mainframe, but perhaps as we move into a more digital system, we could kind of take a look at that fee structure as we're looking at the red tape and small businesses. Understanding the volume in those different categories would be really helpful.
Yes, ma'am. And again, when we meet with just the chair of the committee or just a couple of people from the committee, we're expecting that they carry on that information to the entire committee. But if you want us to make a same presentation to the entire committee, we're happy to do that. And talking about getting those groups of licenses, we were very helpful in doing exactly what you're saying, the fee structure and all of that, but it was very hard when we went to home occupied license. We had all of that data, we presented it to the board, et cetera, to the entire board at that time. And so however they wanted, yes, home occupation licenses went from $200 to $25 based on the data and stuff that we gave. Committee, yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that. I know
no problem.
All that's very difficult.
Yes, ma'am.
At the same time, I didn't realize, as you pointed out earlier, you had been fighting for these changes for some time.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the first I've learned of that, and I would just love to be informed about some of those issues that you've brought up, whether it is in a written document, a phone call, or a hearing, or any other manner in which you're communicating your concerns. I would love to be a part of, or at least on the receiving end of some of your fight. With that, I will turn it back to the Alderwoman from the 6th, who has an additional follow-up questions for the license collector.
It's really just a follow-up comment, Chairwoman. We met, I know this is a little bit ancillary, but we met with the license collector last session, and we've been in communication with their office this session. So certainly, as an aside to some of the details for the licenses, as well as some of their upcoming projects, we'll follow up with their office and work on getting together either a physical presentation or a presentation to the Red Tape Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman from the 6th. That would be very helpful. I'm excited to break down some of these barriers for business owners. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We have been doing that from the very start.
Okay. With that, I will thank you, Madam License Collector, for being here today, again, for accommodating that little confusion on the timing on the front of this hearing. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for making this move as quickly as possible for us today. We are getting out of our budget committee in record time today. Thank you all for being here. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh, excuse me, wait. I would like to.
We're recessing, right? Until
Excuse me,
1:30?
excuse me, if I could, before we actually recess, I do have one order of business. That would be excused absences. Excused absences were requested of both Alderwoman Boyd and Alderman Oldenburg. Okay,
So noted.
thank you. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.